How to create an English garden in Poland. What plants should such a garden have? What elements are important in it? Good morning, my dear friends. Hello from Zamośćczyzna today, from another garden as part of the Wow Garden 2026 project. From a unique garden because it's an English style garden, cottage style, sort of rustic. Today we want to show you the elements that are in this garden. The owner of the garden will tell you about the history of how it was created. And if you want to stay up to date with all this information with the next episodes of the Wow Garden project, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Let us know if you're Team English Gardens or maybe you prefer some other type. And if you have the opportunity, please share this video around. The English garden in the Zamość region is a place where Marta lives and works. Hi! Hi! I hope you'll tell us and show us the basic principles of an English garden.
I'd be happy to tell you. Come on in, no problem.
Let's go! Marta, tell me, where did the idea for this place come from, for an English garden here in the Zamość region?
The very idea to buy a plot of land here was actually my husband's, who lived nearby, so it's a very sentimental place. But the fact that there would be a garden here, I think we knew that from the very beginning, because we've had this passion for years, even when we were still living in an apartment block. We used to visit English gardens, Scottish, Irish ones, and we always really liked that naturalistic approach, those mysterious pathways and the roses and those colors too.
You'll show us a bit of it here later, but how big is the area here?
It's 3 hectares, but the pond takes up 1.5 hectares. So basically, if you count the garden rooms, the orchard, the meadow, the cottage garden, the greenhouse, and the vegetable garden, that's also about 1.5 hectares. And the nature trail with the pond is also about 1.5 hectares, more or less.
You have a pond, which is quite a large pond, and it was created by your husband.
Yes.
It wasn't a pond, it was just a stream that came out from somewhere.
Of course, it's naturally a bit marshy here, so it was great. The conditions were perfect. So my husband designed it, drew it on paper, and made the right depths for the fish, shallower here, deeper there, so it would look more natural.
And do such little ponds actually often appear in real English gardens?
They do appear, but not in all of them. Although most English gardens try to have some kind of water garden, like at Chatsworth, Heathcote and Sissinghurst, they all have water gardens. Only sometimes it's in the form of a canal, sometimes a small pond, sometimes some waterfalls, so it really depends on what you want. Here it's also more of a fish pond, besides that there's just a lot of nature around. So the idea was rather to make it naturalistic, blended into nature, for the garden to blend into the landscape, to transition, just like in English gardens, into a nature trail, into something naturalistic.
I understand. How long have you been working on this place?
Actually, the garden has been slowly developing here for about 8 years, but different elements have been created gradually. We've lived here permanently since the pandemic, so we could put all our energy and effort into creating these spaces or keeping them in shape.
Mm-hmm. And one more question. What does this garden mean to you?
I think it's kind of a necessity. I have this urge to just go out and work in the garden. I just have this inner need. Besides, I usually relax here a lot. If the thought comes to my mind that this is supposed to stress me out, I'd rather just go back home. I'd rather come here and wander around between gardening tasks.
So it's not supposed to be something that just has to be done right now and urgently, although there are certain things that need to be done, like sowing, which you'll tell us about later in the greenhouse. Yes. Well, yes, but I absolutely understand that. The garden should be a place to work, but also a place for people to relax, definitely. Okay, now let's walk through your garden rooms. Okay, and you'll tell me what's most important in the concept of English gardens.
All right.
We're in your first room, which is enclosed by hornbeam hedges, right? That's right. What kind of place is this? What would you call them?
It's a cottage garden, a country garden, a grandma's garden, like our grandmothers had, filled with phlox, dahlias, and more. These were well-known plants that were very traditional, and here in this garden there is a mix of annual plants, biennials and perennials.
Exactly. And what is the idea behind this? Because we have a lot of paths here, but also these kinds of flower beds. Is this basic idea taken from English gardens?
My inspiration was one of the first gardens I saw there in northern England, Levance Hall. They had a vegetable garden with those little pea pyramids. I was delighted by it. I decided that I had to have at least a little path with those peas, and these peas create a kind of symmetry here in this garden.
But overall the symmetry is visible because these are basically rectangular elements. Exactly.
There are 16 of these rectangles here, so the axis of the garden is very symmetrical, these gravel paths. But in the flower beds, things do their own thing a bit. It's kind of a controlled chaos.
Since we're discussing peas, we have to mention them because it's pea season. They're delicious, I have to say, so meaty and thick. How do you make sure the peas turn out like this from the very beginning?
Well, from the seed, right? Whether I have bought seeds or collected ones. In February, I sow them in pots, multi-cell trays. They just sit in a cold greenhouse. The temperature can't drop below 5, but 5 is okay.
Do they also germinate in such a cold greenhouse?
They germinate at first for 3 or 4 days at home, and then I move them all to the greenhouse, and they stay there until April, until it's time to plant them out. But thanks to this, they develop a beautiful root ball, and that's why they have those flowers and fragrance. Because if we planted them straight into the ground, later they wouldn't be the same. I've already experimented with that.
The flower stems are smaller and shorter.
The scent is also different. Of course, a lot depends on the variety. Here, for example, we have the Gwendolyn variety from the Chelsea Flower Show, I think from 2 years ago. Let me tell you, it was a gold medal sweet pea, and I collected the seeds. And they have really huge ruffles.
Yes, they're ruffled. It's a matter of the variety. They're not so plain. Okay, so they just grow like that. But for them to grow like that, they probably need some basics. I mean, they need to eat something.
Compost, I replace it every year in this spot. There's also a special protection against voles here. A board like this, which my husband put here for me because it's really hard since they nibble on the roots. And I keep tying them up with string from time to time after it rains so they stay in shape. And there's a lot of pinching off. So throughout the season, we have to keep cutting the sweet peas for vases and bouquets so that they keep blooming. We can't let that happen. We can't let the seeds form because if we do, if we go away on vacation or something, then the sweet peas will stop blooming.
They turn yellow and stop growing. They produce seeds, and then we can collect those seeds, but that's only in about a month.
Even longer. Once my sweet peas lasted until November.
They'll be fine until September if you keep deadheading them. So it's very important, if you really want to have such beautiful sweet peas and just look at how they look, you have to cut them a lot as soon as they appear. Don't hold back. We cut them, put them in vases, make little bouquets. The scent should spread everywhere. The more we cut, the more the sweet peas grow.
Every other day, you can even cut all the flowers off the pyramid.
We turned away from the sweet peas for a bit, but here we have another flower bed that's filled with all sorts of metal frames. What are these used for?
These are welded supports for tall flowers. And here we actually have a flower bed that's full of tulips in the spring, and right now there are cosmos here, which are annual flowers.
And these cosmos, because there are these tall grids, you can probably stick them in more securely, right? Yes, yes.
You can.
Later on they stay upright here, which is nice.
Exactly. That's what keeps them upright. Of course, I still sometimes help a bit with some strings from the outside because they really can flop over. But here there will be a cloud of flowers. There should at least be a cloud of flowers in August.
So when we come here during that second visit, it will probably be very full of flowers. And I have a question for you right away. Do you use supports like this for your plants? And if so, let me know which specific flowers you use these kinds of supports for. In that spot you had metal supports, and here we have the classic English method, right?
That's right. My husband made it out of wood just from the garden, from some branches. It's a bit inspired by the Sarah Raven English garden style.
So it's a divider, but not really meant as a barrier. It's supposed to be something decorative. And it is, because it's a fantastic combination. What do we have here?
The marigolds sowed themselves, and I sowed larkspur directly in the ground in March, since they root best that way.
In the ground. We also talked off camera that you actually sow everything yourself. You'll talk about that in a moment in the greenhouse, and actually larkspur is sown directly into the beds.
That's right. Larkspur and poppies do very well when you just sow them directly into the flower beds in March. That's the best way.
There are a dozen or so different beds here. We won't show you all of them now because we'll save something for our second visit, but we've come to a bed where we have perennial plants.
Biennials. Biennials. Actually, both carnations and sweet william, and another type of carnation that blooms later, so there are still buds. And here the foxgloves are already fading here. Foxglove is, in my view, a symbol of the English garden.
And that's why I wanted to come here, because actually these biennials are very important plants. And what's even more important is that right now is the time to sow them.
Exactly. I'm starting on it now.
So June, early July is the time when we should start sowing biennial plants, because when do they get planted out later?
September, October.
So that they can still develop their root system? Yes, first. And so they can still grow. Exactly. You mentioned that for plants to bloom beautifully, especially those that bloom very intensely in a short period of time, they need fertilizers. I saw Surfinias and Petunias at your place. How often do you water them?
I tried to water all those potted plants at least once a week, sometimes even twice.
That's very good, because from our next partner, Sowing, we have a set of all kinds of soluble fertilizers for you. For example, for tomatoes, but also for flowering plants. Here you go. Thanks, that'll be very useful. And so that these plants can really flourish.
Thank you very much.
For me, my dear friends, a hallmark of English gardens is also the so-called kitchen gardens, right?
Yes, that's right.
So basically vegetable gardens, and you also have such an area. Tell us a little bit about it.
This is an area that was created recently. I would even say it's still in progress because there's supposed to be some kind of wall in the background. For now, there's gravel and raised vegetable beds. I moved some vegetables from the country garden here, for example, strawberries. And of course, I also planted things like carrots, radishes, and lettuces here.
So basically the classic things you find in a vegetable garden.
Exactly.
But you also have a poppy field there, which is unusual for a vegetable garden.
It's not, but I like it because there are so many bees flying around here this time of year. I have a lot of varieties of poppies that are just interesting, kind of ornamental. They bring joy in the morning when you come here with your coffee or tea.
Tell me, are these raised beds a defining feature and principle of kitchen gardens, or is it more about convenience?
In England it's different, but they also have vegetable gardens with raised beds. Here I considered both convenience and the fact that snails won't get in. For example, they won't eat the strawberries, or at least fewer will get in. And also that it's decorative. I just like this color too. I wanted to incorporate it. We spent a long time deciding what color it would be. And since it also matched those Provençal vibes, it just worked out that way. So decorative and practical.
In that respect, what color is it? You could say it's olive, kind of olive.
Provençal, yes.
Olive, great. And it's solid wood, made of wood. Yes, good quality wood.
Which we don't have anymore. Oak, so they don't fall apart so quickly, because aluminum ones would obviously last forever. These definitely won't last forever, but if you take good care of them, hopefully they'll last 10 years too.
I'll keep my fingers crossed that they last 10 years because they really look great. Thanks for My dear friends, we are in the heart of the garden by the greenhouse. In the heart of typical English gardens, there are also greenhouses. Tell me, where can you get a greenhouse like this?
We built it ourselves. My husband designed and drew it. Of course, we based it on inspirations from English magazines and our trips to England. We took a lot of photos of those greenhouses. And we did it ourselves. Well, it was built, it took a year to build. So it was really a challenge, but it's here in the English Victorian style.
It's also worth noting that companies can build greenhouses like this for those who can't build it themselves.
There are companies that can do it, and there are companies from Sweden and English companies too, like Hartley or Botanic or Alitex. These companies make them. You can see them at Chelsea.
But those are costs almost like building a house.
Those are really high costs, honestly. You would really have to get a direct quote from them.
Definitely. Approximately how big is this greenhouse?
It has, because it's kind of like 2 conservatories, about 40-something square meters, I think, roughly.
So it's divided into 2 sections, yes? We were supposed to go in there and show you, but I'm wondering if it's warm inside.
We can go in for a moment.
So we'll go in, but we'll show you inside. It's nice, it's cool that it's actually divided into 2 parts. This first part is for seedlings, so tell us about them. Yes.
March, February, April, that's when I start seedlings here in multi-cell trays and so on. Everything stands here. Many plants need the cold, so they stay here then. Yes.
Called hardening off.
Right, exactly. Then in April I sow the heat-loving ones. They also stay in the greenhouse, and then they go outside the greenhouse. I put them out somewhere or harden them off here outside. And in winter and autumn it serves decorative purposes, so really lights, Christmas trees, you can make wreaths here, hold workshops. When it's not as hot as it is now.
And the other part is a classic greenhouse, so there are tomatoes, cucumbers, melons, and all the others.
Watermelon, yes. There used to be a grapevine, but I removed it because it turned out that the root went very deep and was taking nutrients from other plants, plus wasps would come and eat all the grapes. They loved the warmth, so we removed the grapevine.
Actually, recently we had a grapevine in one of the gardens, and no, we didn't notice anything like that, but that's good in a way.
It's different for everyone.
However, it's also good to learn new things.
All right.
The English garden at your place isn't just about those flower beds and those rooms. You could say that a separate room is that huge pond your husband built. Do you relax by that pond?
Yes, we paddle around in kayaks when we have a free moment between chores and so on. Here in the fisherman's cabin, you can have breakfast in the morning. Sometimes I even work here, so absolutely. Total chill.
As they say.
You can do that.
Walks. But that big pond itself is just one thing. You said you have several different small ponds like that where there are water lilies.
Exactly. We really like water lilies. It's a bit of a challenge to plant them, but I think it's worth the effort. However, there are a few ponds where the lilies are, just to protect them a bit from fish like grass carp so they don't eat them. There are also small and larger ponds there, little piers where you can observe them, and a whole nature trail with different corners around where you can wander around. I like that word.
Great. We've already talked before because I also asked this question. Have you had any gardening failures recently? Yes, about walking around the pond.
Yes, this winter with minus 30 degrees devastated our magnolias. I think only 4 magnolias are left in the magnolia clearing there on the nature trail. So I think we have to be very careful with magnolias here because the climate is really harsh.
We're in the Zamość region, so that's worth mentioning, but I've also seen in other gardens that magnolias have suffered a bit this year too, so that's one of your failures because a garden isn't just about successes.
Absolutely, but from the start I assumed there'd be magnolias with 3 large ones staying and the rest removed. I just had a feeling it would end up like this.
When you visit someone, you usually bring flowers. Well, we came to a garden, so we don't have flowers, but we do have gifts. Fantastic. From our partner Allegro. I have a little gardener's kit here, and I have some equipment for spraying. Oh, you can use this for foliar fertilizers. We have a net. I saw you use a net for cucumbers.
For cucumbers.
Something for tying up. Great, and thank you. It's a great thing. Listen, try it out. This is a bench, but the bench is also designed so that when you're weeding on your knees, you can kneel here, and when you get tired, you flip it over and you have a bench.
Is it useful? Absolutely. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it, and I'm really surprised.
Glad it'll be useful. Thanks. My dear friends, on Allegro, you can find really a lot of products and items for the garden. If you want to make a bigger purchase, remember that you can use Allegro Pay to postpone the payment a bit, for example, for 30 days, or split it into convenient installments. Marta, if you had to choose, the most important plant that should be in an English garden, what would it be?
A rose, of course. An English one, preferably.
An English rose, preferably. Tell me, how many roses do you have in your garden?
If I count them all, I think there are about 150, but probably a bit fewer varieties.
A few dozen, probably?
Yes, exactly. I haven't counted it precisely.
Do you have both climbing, bedding, and ground cover ones?
A lot of bushy ones. I don't even have any ground cover ones. I have maybe 2 standard roses, and the rest are mainly those bushy English ones or climbing ones. So great.
Because it's really very important to have roses in an English garden. That's why I have a question for you. What varieties of roses do you have, the ones you like the most? Tell me, Marta, do you see wood used in English gardens?
Absolutely. I think all natural materials are used, so that includes wood.
So I have another gift for you from Jagram, our partner, who has great wooden elements for the garden. I have a trellis. I have a planter with a trellis like that. Will you find a place for it?
I have an English rose ready to plant. I think it will be perfect.
Great. So we'll see in the next episode how it does here. My dear friends, and if you also need any wooden products for your garden, go to the Jagram website, click the link that's in the description of this video. That link takes you directly to a page with a 10% discount. And if you just want to enter a code, just type in Hubert Lemansky when shopping on the Jagram website, then everything will be discounted by that 10%. So to wrap up our journey through your garden, because it really is a journey, such a huge garden. So of course, as tradition has it, to keep the tradition going, I'll ask you some quick questions. And please answer in one sentence. Okay, listen, if you had to choose a garden, would it be a garden in the style of Piet Oudolf or Beth Chatto?
Chatto is fine.
That's fine. Drier than something very perennial? I do.
I also have dry elements in the garden, more naturalistic ones there, here on the prairie bed, so it won't be. I have to choose quickly.
If you're working in the garden, do you prefer to work at the crack of dawn or maybe in the afternoon?
In the afternoon, once the sun is a little lower.
So 6 p.m. or later.
5 o'clock p.m., yes, that's when it's the most picturesque and peaceful.
In the flower bed, are the plants more annual or biennial?
I have more annuals. If I have to pick, I'll choose annuals.
The English garden is known for its distinctive plants. If you had to choose, which would it be, roses or peonies?
Roses.
Roses, why?
Because they bloom longer, they're more diverse, but it's a tough choice because I also love peonies with all my heart, but still, roses. They are the queens of the garden, the classics.
In your garden, it's like being on vacation, but if you were to go somewhere on vacation, would you prefer the south, meaning warmer regions, or more to the north with a bit cooler climate?
I'm drawn to the north of England, Scotland and Ireland. I like that kind of atmosphere, so even though warm weather is nice, it's more picturesque there, so I choose the north.
To finish, my dear friends, we've come once again to the most important place in this garden. If you want to see more of this garden, of course, I encourage you to wait for the second episode. But if you don't want to wait, Marta also shows this garden on her Instagram. What's the name of your profile?
Secret Gardener Poland.
You'll find it in the description of this video. Check out Marta's profile, leave a comment because it's always nicer when there's some interaction. And we'll see you in the next episode in the middle of summer. See you.